The following program presents principles designed to promote good health and is not intended to take the place of personalized professional care. The opinions and ideas expressed are those of the speaker. Viewers are encouraged to draw their own conclusions about the information presented.
Hello and welcome to Health for a Lifetime. I'm your host, Don McIntosh, and you're in for a real treat today. We have with us Dr. DeRose from Lifestyle Center of America. We're glad that you're with us, David.
Good to be with you, Don.
Now, what do you do there exactly at the Lifestyle Center of America?
Well, actually, I work with a team. It's a great privilege to work with a team of Christian health professionals who really try to move people not in the direction of using more medications and drugs, but actually looking at what can we do with lifestyle. What kind of simple things can we take advantage of that can make a difference on our health? And so people come to our center with conditions like heart disease, diabetes, weight problems, high blood pressure. They come with risk factors, high cholesterol. They come with concerns about diabetes in a family member. Why? I don't want this to happen to me. And so these are the kind of issues that motivate people to come to our center. We work with them in a residential setting. We help them get on an excellent exercise program, a good diet, and all of it is done under a medical umbrella. I, as an MD, other physicians on our staff work with them, nurses, we have dietitian there, we have an exercise physiologist and a team of exercise trainers. So really a whole range of people, professional health educators. So really try to give a very well-rounded experience in a short time.
It's a beautiful location, too. I've been there sort of up on the mountain there, and it is a nice setting. You know, one of the big concerns that people have today is their weight, at least it would seem. Is this a big problem in America?
I mean, it's really a tremendous concern from a public health standpoint. Don, in the last 10 years, the average American has gained 8 pounds. So, you know, as our viewers are sitting here watching, if they've gained more than that, that's above the average. But the point is, the average person is gaining, and with weight gain comes increasing risk of certain types of cancer, increased heart disease risk, increased problems with osteoarthritis, the wear and tear arthritis that can affect hips and knees and ankles, especially when you're bearing a lot of weight, high blood pressure, diabetes, all on that list of problems that rise as our weight rises.
Why are we gaining weight like that?
Well, the evidence points to our lifestyle. I mean, our genetics really haven't changed. Our lifestyles have, though. We're sitting in front of the TV a lot more. We're driving a lot more. I mean, I can even remember as a kid, now maybe this is dating me, but we could walk to the grocery store. And,
sounds unheard of. Why would you do that?
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? But, I mean, that was not uncommon. Well, what do we do today? We get in our cars and we drive here, we drive there. What kind of work do we do? I mean, we're a high-tech society. We're sitting at desks. We're doing office jobs. We're in the service industry. We're working with the internet and media and all these things. Many of these tremendous technological advances, but what's happening to us as far as lifestyle? We're getting more sedentary, more inactive, and then our diets. Are our diets getting better?
Bigger, but not better.
Bigger, yeah, but not better. That's what tends to happen.
What about young people? I've heard a lot about, teenagers that even are now getting big.
Real concerns, real concerns. And one of the areas that really highlights this is diabetes, because both inactivity, poor dietary choices, and weight gain all contribute to that diagnosis. The adult onset diabetes, that's what we used to call it. We can't call it that anymore. We call it diabetes type 2 or type 2 diabetes. Why? There's kids as young as 5 years old in America that have type 2 diabetes.
Oh, man, that is sad. So what's the answer? I see at the end of my street, before I came down here, got on the plane, traveled over here, it says, lose 30 pounds in 3 days, or whatever, or 30 days. Is that the answer?
Unfortunately not. I mean, it's bad news to a lot of people listening to us. But, you know, people want the quick fix. I mean, you get motivated. You know, we're going to be talking about how you can trim down a little bit on the program today, and someone's going to say, yeah, you know, 30 pounds. They come to our center that way, Don. They come to our 19-day program, and they want to lose 50 pounds. We've only had one person lose 40 or 50 pounds in our 19-day program. And
was that through amputation?
Actually, it was against our medical advice. He got so excited about some fasting early in the program, he felt that he was called to do a 40-day fast. Now, this might sound like an amusing story.
It's not.
But, you know, we were having to work with him and make sure he got nutritional supplementation. I kept discouraging this guy. We use short fasts. They have a role in a number of disease states. I mean, by short, 3 to 5 days.
Right.
And he left our program after 19 days, still determined he was going to stick with this 40-day fast. And believe me, we were praying for him. And we're glad that, that he felt, because he had a number of other problems, that he shouldn't continue that fast. I heard about a week later when I talked with him that he had come off the fast.
Boy, so diets and this type of thing is really, it's not the best way to go about it.
The reason why that's such an excellent example is because I was trying to tell this guy, I mean, yeah, it's fine, you can lose a lot of weight with a total fast, but it's dangerous, it's risky. Now, we were checking blood on him, and he had us scared because, you know, we let people kind of run their own show when they're at the Lifestyle Center. If someone doesn't want to fast, you know, they don't have to.
Right.
If someone wants to fast for 19 days, we never once forced food into this guy's mouth. But we were concerned. But the point was, he hadn't learned the optimal lifestyle when he went back home.
So it was kind of an artificial thing where you can't really live that way forever.
That's right. And that's what many of these diets are, Don. Even though it's not a total fast, people say, look, hey, graduation's coming, family reunion's coming, 25th high school reunion's coming. I'm going to lose the weight. I'm going to wear that dress. I'm going to, you know, look, you know, really
Good for
trim.
that day and die the next.
And, yeah, that's
and then go out and binge the next day.
Don, when I work with patients, I'd rather have them make small changes that they're going to stick with than huge changes that there's no possibility they're going to stick with for the rest of their life.
Oh, man. So really, it takes a long time to gain the weight. It's going to take a while to get rid of it.
Definitely. And you don't want to just lose the water and lose the fat and the muscle with it. If you lose weight rapidly, like on a fast, you are losing muscle mass.
The protein.
You're losing protein. And muscle mass is what drives your metabolism. This is one of the reasons why people tend to yo-yo. You lose the weight rapidly, it's going to tend to come back on, and you're going to tend to gain even more.
So you don't want to lose the protein. So do we need high-protein diets?
You know, a lot of people think that's the solution. You know, the high-protein diets are very scary to a lot of us in the public health arena. The reason why, if you look at the foods that people are eating, not only do these foods raise some of the more recently appreciated heart disease risk factors, at least the research indicates they should. I haven't seen anyone study these diets in that respect, but like homocysteine, a well appreciated risk factor now for heart disease. But what about cancer risk? There's a body of research literature that suggests as we increase our animal product consumption, we increase our risk for cancer.
What about kidney risk?
Kidney risk is a concern because animal protein seems to be hard on the kidney. So there's a list of concerns. A very interesting concern was raised by researchers at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. The Wertmans, brain chemistry researchers there, raised this concern with the high-protein diets. High-protein diets seem calculated to lower a good chemical in your brain called serotonin.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah, people are taking drugs to raise serotonin today. You know, the Prozacs and Effexors and things, they raise serotonin. They help fight depression. Here's the concern the Wertmans have. People stick with these high-protein diets for a while, and they're suggesting it's going to increase their likelihood for relapse. It's going to decrease their mood over time. They're going to throw in the towel, not stick with it. And this is a common scenario, whether it's the brain chemistry linkage or just getting sick and tired of having bacon and eggs 3 times a day.
So the main things then against the protein diet are, number one, what it does to your body itself.
They're long-term concerns. They're long-term concerns.
And you can't live that way, isn't it? Isn't that sort of like a starvation diet?
I mean, that's the other thing. If someone really tells me, hey, Dr. DeRose, I'm going to stick with this diet for the rest of my life, then I say, you know, I'm worried because all of the cancer literature I mean, a while back I looked at, over 100 studies that looked at fruit and vegetable consumption and cancer prevention. Almost without exception, Don, those studies show eat more fruits, eat more vegetables, you decrease your risk of cancer. It's not that way when it comes to meat and animal products, and that's what these people are pushing. So they say, I want to lower my weight, I want to look better. Hey, I even lowered my cholesterol, some of them are finding on these diets. But what's happening to your cancer risk? Cancer is going to be the leading killer of Americans in the near future. Heart disease rates coming down, stroke rates coming down, and I'll tell you, when it comes to a leading cause of death, cancer is going to be on the top of the list, and I am very much afraid of pushing these animal products that tend to be associated in all the population studies with higher cancer risk.
What's the real issue with people that have a problem with weight? Do you find that it's just the weight, or is there something deeper?
Well, Don, the first thing I like to emphasize when we talk about weight concerns is that God accepts you right where you're at. A lot of people today have had labels stuck on them because you're carrying some extra weight. And when people come to the Lifestyle Center of America, we don't try to put a guilt trip on them. We don't try to say, or
belittle them or anything.
Right, not at all. What we try to do is these are our brothers and sisters, and they've got struggles. I've got struggles too. It may not be a weight struggle. And by the way, just for the record, it's not. You don't have to worry. I don't have anorexia. I don't feel I'm overweight. But here's the issue. Don, if someone can't accept the fact that God accepts them just the way they are, that they don't have to lose 50 pounds or 100 pounds or 200 pounds to be okay in God's eyes, then they're working at a huge disadvantage. Because the stability in any lifestyle change comes when someone recognizes that there's a loving Creator, a loving Redeemer, who wants to help them to achieve optimal health.
So as a Christian physician there and the Christian physicians at the Lifestyle Center, you find that these types of things start to come up. It's really some of these issues.
Very common. Very common. In our society, think about it. We put labels on people. And you know what? You can't see a lot of problems. You can't see a lot of weaknesses in people. But you can see when someone has a weakness that's contributed to weight gain. Now, I say that also putting one other thing in the equation, and that is a lot of people with weight gain tendencies, maybe even all of them, Don, have other things in their background that they can't control. Genetic factors, early life history factors, factors in your mother's womb. Affect our body weight today, affect our tendency to be heavy or to be thin, our risk of diabetes and other diseases. What do we have to do with that? Zero.
And it doesn't really mean just because I'm thin or you may be thin or that we really are that healthy, does it?
Not necessarily. The interesting thing is, if someone says, look, I recognize there are problems in my lifestyle. That's one of the reasons why I'm carrying extra weight. Don, that's where I want the focus to be. Because those lifestyle changes not only help us to trim down, they increase the quality of our life, they give us other dividends.
We're talking with Dr. David DeRose from the Lifestyle Center of America. He recently has just, along with his team, published a paper on some of the things we're talking about today. They have a lot of resources and resources about this dialogue we're having today. If you'd like to get in touch with them, you could contact them at the Lifestyle Center of America webpage. That's www.lifestylecenter.org, or you can contact us here at 3ABN, and we can get you in touch with Dr. DeRose or the others there on his excellent staff. Maybe you have a problem with weight. Maybe you know someone that does. Give them a call and join us when we come back to the second half. We're going to look at what those lifestyle factors are that we should be focusing on how we can address those in ways, how they do it there at the Lifestyle Center, how you can start to make changes now. And so join us when we come back.
Have you found yourself wishing that you could shed a few pounds? Have you been on a diet for most of your life, but not found anything that will really keep the weight off? If you've answered yes to any of these questions, then we have a solution for you that works. Dr. Hans Deal and Dr. Eileen Luddington have written a marvelous booklet called Reversing Obesity Naturally, and we'd like to send it to you free of charge. Here's a medically sound approach successfully used by thousands who were able to eat more and lose weight permanently without feeling guilty or hungry through lifestyle medicine. Dr. Deal and Dr. Luddington have been featured on 3ABN, and in this booklet, they present a sensible approach to eating, nutrition, and lifestyle changes that can help you prevent heart disease, diabetes, and even cancer. Call her right today for your free copy of Reversing Obesity Naturally, and you could be on your way to a healthier, happier you. It's absolutely free of charge, so call her right today.
Welcome back. We've been talking with Dr. David DeRose from the Lifestyle Center of America, and we've been talking about a major concern in America, that being obesity or being overweight. And we've talked about, some of the issues that are involved with the magnitude of the problem, about how to address it, about what not to do, protein diets, yo-yo diets, whatever. But we want to look now a little bit more at lifestyle factors. What really should we be looking at? What do you look at there at the Lifestyle Center of America? What can our viewers start to look at even today in their lives?
Well, the two biggest factors that people always talk about are diet and exercise. And Don, I can see people, listening to the show and go,
oh, no.
You want to know diet and exercise again, right? But, there's a lot of things about diet and exercise that people don't keep in perspective.
Such as?
I'll tell you the most important one. I used to be the medical director of a large hospital-based weight loss program. There in Orlando, Florida, I used to see lots of people came through our programs. And I'll tell you, one of the things that struck me was one of the root problems when it comes to eating is that most people don't know the difference between hunger and appetite. Can you relate to that?
I can relate to that.
Okay. A lot of people can't. They say, in fact, when I first heard the concept some 20 years ago, I said, what, wait, hunger and appetite, aren't they the same thing? When I use the term hunger, I'm talking about a true physiologic need for food that your body senses. When I talk about appetite, I'm talking about a desire for food that may or may not be in harmony with your body's true needs.
How do you tell the difference?
Very important question. You wouldn't ask that question of an infant on this show, would you?
No, they'd start crying, you'd know.
That's right. Actually, the interesting thing about infants is they know the difference. You try to get an infant to overeat, what do? They spit it out, turn their head away, right?
Right. Well, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I know you're. Let me tell you what's interesting. What happens to us as we go through this social acculturation, if you will, we start to learn to eat not for hunger. You skinned your knee? Here, have a cookie. You got a good grade on your report card?
Here, have an ice cream cone.
Yeah, it's hey, Johnny's having his birthday. He brought cupcakes to school. We learn to eat for all kinds of reasons beside hunger, and so we've lost the sense. So how do you learn the difference? You've got to start listening again. Dr. DeRose, people tell me, how can I start listening again? Several things have to happen, Don, if people want to learn to tell the difference. One, they got to slow down. Slow down.
Be in touch with themselves.
Be in touch with themselves.
Okay.
Most Christians have a tradition of praying before they eat. Pray to the Lord to help you not to overeat. Pray that God would give you insight into knowing when your hunger is satisfied. Slow down the tempo of eating. My wife was telling me when she was in high school, she was at a school, it was a boarding high school, and they had a work-study program. And she had something like, 15 minutes to get to the cafeteria to eat and to get to her next assignment. This is common in America. And how can you slow down when you're eating on a 15-minute lunch break?
I don't know.
You can't. You got to take time to eat. How do people, what kind of practical suggestions can we give them? Have you heard any yourself when people talk about slowing their tempo of eating?
I've heard Zwieback. I've heard different things that can be.
Zwieback is a very dry toast.
That will make you slow down, that you can't do it. You heard John Harvey Kellogg, he had all these ideas about how to masticate slowly and to count the number of times you chew your food.
That's one of the techniques. Some of the folks that go through our program at the Lifestyle Center, they say, I learned to chew 20 or 30 bites or 40 bites each time. I think that's kind of artificial, personally. If that works for someone, hey, go ahead and do that. What's more practical if it comes to chewing is chew the food until it's a creamy consistency in your mouth. That's a little bit more realistic. And if you're eating dry toast or Zwieback, you're going to really have to chew the food for quite a while, right?
Right.
Another technique, age-old technique when it comes to weight reduction programs, is put your utensil down between bites. Get out of this mode of, just kind of shoveling the food into your mouth.
Now talking to you, it seems like you would be one that eats rapidly.
It does seem that way, doesn't it? But you know what? I believe in rhythm in life, Don.
All right.
And there are times where we need to be energetic, and we need to be going and going full steam, and there's other times we need to just kind of cool down and relax, and mealtime is one of those times.
And you slow down.
That's a time when I slow down as much as I can.
Okay. Good. Any food choice? Oh, exercise.
Wait, I don't want to slip away from this hunger appetite, because you asked such a good question.
This is a big one.
It's a big one.
All right, go ahead.
And I've got a favorite story.
All right.
Again, it happened to my wife. She's a great lady. She's also got some great stories.
And she may not watch this, so you're
going
to be okay.
Yeah, I'm safe.
All right.
But she was invited out to eat. And this is not an unusual occurrence. I mean, she's a very charming person. But anyway, she was invited out to eat before we got married even. This was some time ago. And she was sitting there eating. They had a delicious meal prepared. The hostess was there, and her 2 children were there at the meal. But you know what? There was a problem. It was getting to be time for dessert. And you know what?
What?
Johnny still had his celery stick on his plate.
Can't have that.
It can't have that. But, you know, she was a good hostess. She didn't want to make everyone wait for a apparently healthy dessert. And so she brought out these cookies. And so everyone's eating the cookies except Johnny, because he's still got the celery stick on his plate. Finally, Johnny says, "Mommy, could I please have a cookie?" He says, "Johnny, not until you eat your celery stick." He says, but Mommy, I don't have room for my celery stick." "Johnny, then you don't have room for a cookie." "Oh, Mommy, you don't understand. I don't have a big, long place in my stomach for a celery stick, but I got a little round space for a cookie." Why do I tell that story when it comes to differentiating hunger from appetite? Johnny may just not have liked celery, but on the other hand, it may have been his appetite that was calling for a cookie. You know, Don, appetite usually calls for specific foods. Mm-hmm. So if someone's wondering whether it's hunger or appetite, and they're wanting to have their 4th serving of the vegetarian lasagna, say, it's a healthy food. Right. Why can't I have 4 servings? Try the substitution test if you're wondering if it's hunger or appetite. If it's hunger, you'd be willing to eat anything that's an acceptable choice for you. Maybe you don't like celery sticks as well, or carrot sticks. But if you're hungry, you'll eat those if that's all that's available.
Right.
But if you say, "No, I'm only hungry for lasagna,"
then that's appetite.
That's almost always appetite. So
if
just
you want
another
the kale and the kumquats, then you're probably, and the cassavas, you're probably okay.
Probably okay.
But if you switch and it doesn't work.
That's right. That's just a little technique. I'll tell you one other technique as we're talking about this, because I believe if we were to say there is one principle more important than any other, it is the hunger appetite principle. Now, some people think I'm taking liberties with this, Don, but I want to just, before I tell you this last technique, I want to tell you, well, I don't need to tell you, you know about this,
what?
Our Lord, when he was there in the wilderness, what was he first tempted on?
Food.
Food. Turn this stone into bread. Now, like I said, some people will say I'm taking liberty, but I believe that our Lord overcame for us in the wilderness on the subject of appetite. That God wants to give us victory in that area. He wants to give us not only insight, but power. But power's of no good unless we recognize the need for the power. So he wants to show us, he wants to help us differentiate between the two and to trust in him. Let me give you that other remedy now.
Okay, what's the other one?
That's drinking water between meals, not with our meals. You know what happens when people drink beverages at their meal?
It takes longer for the food to digest.
It does, that's true. If you dilute the contents of the stomach, stomach emptying is slowed. That is true.
All right.
But it also provides an incentive, if you will, not to chew the food thoroughly. People wash their food down.
Yeah, that's right.
And so not having the beverage at the meal, drinking our water between meals.
So we have to chew it.
What we want to do.
It has to become salubrious and has to become, all the saliva has to be there and masticated and chewed up.
Improves digestion, slows our tempo of eating, allows the Lord to communicate with our brain, tell us when our hunger is satisfied, and then he gives us the power to stop eating.
Drop the drinks. What about exercise? Is that something we should do?
It's vital, Don. It's vital. Listen.
You slowed us down with the drink there.
Exercise. You know, many people today, and I have to share a little bit of research from the Lifestyle Center. This is a paper that we presented at the American College of Sports Medicine in June of 2000.
Okay.
And it got a lot of attention there, and it's continuing to get attention because what we found is that not all exercise is equal when it comes to weight loss.
Okay, what's the difference?
Now, most people think, this is stupid. Of course not all exercise is equal. You know what we found at the Lifestyle Center? We actually did what we call prospective research. We got a group of people from the community who were volunteers to be in an exercise study. All of them were sedentary. None of them were exercising before the study. We divided them into 3 groups. One group is what we call a control group. They just keep being inactive. Second group, continuous aerobic exercise. That's the kind of the mantra in the exercise field today, right? Just keep doing it, do it, stick with it, keep your heart rate up. The other group, we put on what we call interval training exercise. Short bursts of exercise, like 30 seconds, followed by 30 seconds of rest.
I could deal with that.
You could deal with that. Our patients can deal with it. You know what happened? The ones on the interval training program lost triple the weight.
Wow.
They lost triple the weight, and they lost body fat. The group exercising continuously did not. Remarkable.
So a little dab will do you.
And you know what, Don? In the Garden of Eden, God gave Adam and Eve useful exercise. They were to dress the garden and to keep it. I don't think Adam and Eve were checking their pulses. You know,
Out there for
they
8
probably
hours
didn't even-
doing a
Okay?
marathon trim job.
When we do useful work, we do interval training. And this research is validating that you don't have to kill yourself in the gym to lose weight. You will lose weight if you kill yourself in the gym.
We have about a minute left. Summarize what we've said thus far, Doctor, if you can, and just other hints concerning weight reduction so we can just get started on that path.
Okay, to get started on the path of weight reduction, we want to be mindful of how we eat. Slow the tempo of eating. Ask God to give you insights into when your hunger is satisfied and stop eating. If you got a question, just stop. And exercise doesn't have to kill you. And of course, tongue-in-cheek, but moderate exercise is good. Gardening is good when it comes to weight reduction.
We've been talking with Dr. David DeRose from the Lifestyle Center of America. If you're like me, you've learned a lot in this short program that we've had together. You want more information if you're like me. Let me tell you how you can get that information. First of all, you can contact Dr. DeRose and the others there at the Lifestyle Center of America by contacting them at their webpage, www.lifestylecenter.org, organization, O-R-G. Or you can call us here at 3ABN and get their contact information here from us. They have handouts that go with all of these types of presentations like you're seeing today. And we hope that as a result of what you've learned here and in contacting them, you'll have health that lasts for a lifetime.